Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got a clear mission, really. Cut through the complexity of modern network security.
Yeah, it can seem pretty overwhelming.
Right, so we've stacked up the sources, the big guides on network defense, encryption, access control, and we're going to pull out those key strategic nuggets you really need, get you properly informed from, core firewalls right up to the latest wireless standards.
That's the plan. Look, network security these days, it's not just about building one giant wall, is it?
No, not at all.
It's layers. Detection, prevention, and really solid identity checks. We'll get into the tools that watch the traffic versus the ones that actively stop threats. And also, this maybe lesser-known shift, WPA3, and why it's such a big deal for wireless.
Okay, perfect. Let's start with that fundamental idea then. How do these security tools actually watch the traffic? Are they like the silent detective just taking notes, or are they more like a police officer directing things?
That's a great analogy.
We're talking about that split, right?
Yeah.
Intrusion detection systems versus intrusion prevention systems.
Exactly. This is a core tactical decision. They sound similar, IDS and IPS, but where you put them changes everything.
Okay, let's define them clearly first. So the IDS, intrusion detection system.
Yeah.
That's your detective.
Right.
It monitors the network, logs what's happening, and crucially, it operates out of band.
Meaning?
Meaning it sits sort of next to the traffic flow, watching a copy, like a mirror port feed.
Oh.
It sees the threats, but it can't actually step in and interfere.
Got it. And then you flip that for the IPS, the intrusion prevention system. This is your active police officer.
Preventative control.
Yes, designated as preventative. And it has to sit in band, physically in line with the actual traffic.
Okay.
And because it's in line, it has the power to react instantly, block packets, kill sessions, that kind of thing.
All right, but here's my challenge with the IPS then. If it's sitting right in line, acting as the gatekeeper for everything, doesn't that create a single point of failure?
Yeah.
I mean, if the IPS box fails, your network could just stop, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't it add latency too?
That is absolutely the trade-off. You accept that risk, that potential single point of failure, and maybe a tiny bit of latency for the certainty that known attacks get stopped right there. Now, good IPS systems are designed to minimize latency, high throughput, fail open, or fail closed, depending on policy. But yes, it's critical infrastructure. Unlike the IDS, which, if it fails, the network keeps running, you just lose visibility.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's get a bit more granular. Where is this detection actually happening? It's not just monitoring the main internet pipe, is it?
No, you have to consider the scope. We talk about HIDs, host-based, IDS, and NIDs, which is network-based.
Host versus network.
Think of HIDs like software installed directly on a workstation or a server, like a personal bodyguard for that specific machine.
Okay.
It protects local things, OS files, critical logs, and looks for attacks aimed right at that host. You see things like OSCC, open source tools used here a lot.
But the blind spot for HIDs is huge, right?
Yeah.
It knows nothing about what's happened on the network around it.
Precisely. It's got tunnel vision. So that's why we need NIDS, the network-based IDS.
The network view.
Yeah, installed on network gear routers, firewalls, dedicated sensors. It watches the traffic flowing across the network, looking for those network-level attacks.
But its limitation, and this is a big one you mentioned.
Encryption.
Right. NIDS typically can't see inside encrypted traffic. And it also doesn't know the specifics of what's happening on an individual computer.
Correct. So in practice, you really need both. A layered approach, combining HIDs and NIDS for broader coverage.
Makes sense. Okay, so whether it's the detective or the officer, host, or network, how do they actually flag something bad? Our sources point to two main ways, quite different in approach.
Yeah, the first one is the most straightforward, signature-based detection.
Like a fingerprint database for malware.
Exactly like that. The system has a big database of known bad patterns. Think, specific code strings in malware, known attack commands, often tied to CVE numbers. If traffic matches a signature, bang, you get an alert.
It's simple enough, but the catch is
You have to keep those signature files constantly updated. Daily, even hourly sometimes. If you fall behind, you're basically inviting the newest threats right in.
Okay, so that's one way. What's the other, more complex method?
That's trend-based, or sometimes called anomaly-based detection.
Anomaly. So looking for weird stuff.
Essentially, yes. But first, you have to teach it what normal looks like. It establishes a performance baseline over time.
How detailed are we talking?
Very. User login times, which servers they access, how much data they usually transfer, network bandwidth patterns, time of day. Thousands of metrics.
Wow.
Once it has that baseline of normal, it alerts on anything that significantly deviates from it. So if a user suddenly logs in at 3 a.m. from a weird location and starts downloading gigs of data,
That's an anomaly.
exactly, that triggers an alert.
The challenge there, though, must be maintaining that baseline, right? What happens if you roll out a new, perfectly legitimate application? The traffic patterns change.
Bingo. The baseline becomes outdated. You might suddenly get a flood of alerts, false positives, until the system learns the new normal. It requires ongoing tuning.
Okay, and you mentioned false positives. Let's talk about the cost of detection, the headaches.
Oh, yeah. False positives are the bane of security teams. The
Uh-huh.
system alerts on something that isn't actually an incident.
And if you get too many?
Alert fatigue. It's a huge risk. Admins just start ignoring the alerts because most are noise. Then, when the real attack happens...
Gets lost in the flood, I've heard stories. Major breaches starting just like that.
Exactly. It's often not the system failing, but the human response being overwhelmed.
And the flip side? Even scarier.
The false negative. The system completely misses a real attack.
Ouch.
The attacker slips through because maybe their traffic didn't quite match a signature, or it didn't deviate enough from the baseline to trigger the anomaly detection. Silent failure.
Right. So when an alert does fire, what happens? Most responses are passive, right? Like an email.
Usually, yes. Email, SMS, maybe a dashboard pop-up, passive notification. But the IPS, remember, it's in line.
It can take active responses.
Correct. It can actually do something. Modify firewall rules or ACLs on the fly, terminate the malicious session, quarantine the endpoint, maybe even divert the attack traffic somewhere else.
Interesting. Now, speaking of diverting attacks, there was a really strong warning in the source material about counterattacks.
Ah, yes. Explicitly warned against. The advice was crystal clear. Don't do it.
Why not? Seems tempting, right? If you know who's attacking you, why not hit back? Disrupt their systems.
It sounds good, but the risk calculus is terrible. Think about it. Attackers are often specialized, maybe state-funded. They have potentially unlimited time and resources.
And you don't.
And you don't. Plus, engaging directly might expose your systems further, or you could fall into a trap they've set. Attribution is hard. You might hit the wrong target. It's just generally a bad idea from a defensive standpoint.
So instead of fighting back directly,
You use deception and intelligence gathering, tools designed purely to observe.
which leads us perfectly into things like honeypots and honey tokens. Deception tech.
Exactly. Honeypots and Honeynet's networks of honeypots are decoy systems. They look real, maybe like a file server or a database, but they're fake, non-production.
Designed to lure attackers in.
Precisely. You let the attacker break into the honeypot, and then you just watch. What tools did they use? What vulnerabilities did they exploit? What data are they looking for?
So it's pure intelligence gathering, learning their methods, maybe spotting zero-day exploits in action.
That's the goal. It's like setting up a lab to study the enemy safely.
And if honeypots are for network intrusion intel, what about honey tokens? Sounds similar.
Similar concept, but focused specifically on data theft detection. A honey token is like a tagged piece of bait inside your real data.
Like a fake customer record.
Could be a fake credit card number, a bogus employee record, a specific file name, something that looks real but is uniquely identifiable and shouldn't ever leave your network.
Ah, so if that specific token suddenly pops up somewhere, it shouldn't, like on the dark web or in an outbound data transfer?
You know, instantly you had a breach involving that data set, and you might even be able to trace how it got out based on which token was triggered. It's a tripwire for data exfiltration.
Clever. Okay, shifting back to traffic visibility.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier that NIDS struggles with encrypted traffic. That's most traffic nowadays, right?
Increasingly, yes. SSLTLS everywhere.
So how do organizations inspect that encrypted traffic between their users and the internet for things like malware hidden inside?
That's the job of SSLTLS decryptors, often deployed in the DMZ, the demilitarized zone.
How do they work? Man in the middle, basically?
Kind of, but authorized. As the encrypted traffic flows through, the decryptor acts as an intermediary. It decrypts the traffic using keys it manages, allows inspection engines, like IPS or anti-malware, to scan the plaintext content, and then it re-encrypts the traffic before sending it on.
So temporary decryption for inspection. Got it. And what about identifying machines inside the network that are already compromised and trying to phone home, say, to a botnet controller?
For that, a really neat trick is the DNS sinkhole.
Sinkhole. Sounds like it trapped something.
It does. If a compromised client tries to look up the address, DNS query, for a known malicious domain, like a command and control server, the sinkhole intercepts that request.
Instead of giving the real malicious IP address.
It gives back a fake, safe, internal IP address. Maybe an internal web server displaying a warning page,
Yeah.
or just nothing. But critically, it logs the IP address of the client that made the request.
Uh-huh. So you identify the infected machine on your network without letting it actually connect to the bad guys.
Exactly. Positive identification and containment in one go.
That's a really smart technique. Okay, this feels like a good point to pivot from the wired network core to the wild world of wireless. Let's talk Wi-Fi. Access points APs. The source material distinguishes fat APs and thin APs. What's the core difference there?
It boils down to intelligence and control. A fat AP, sometimes called a standalone or autonomous AP, has everything built in. Configuration, management smarts, security policy enforcement, it's all self-contained in that one box.
So like a home Wi-Fi router, more or less.
Sort of, yeah. Good for small setups. But in larger environments, you usually see thin APs. These are controller-based.
Meaning they're dumber.
In a way, they rely on a central wireless LAN controller, WLC, to push down configuration, manage security policies, handle client riving between APs, coordinate frequencies. All the intelligence is centralized.
Which makes sense for managing hundreds or thousands of APs in an enterprise.
Absolutely. Much more scalable and manageable.
Okay, let's talk protocols. We've come a long way from the dark days of WEP, right?
Oh god, WEP, yeah, fundamentally broken. WPA was the quick fix, using TKK, but still had issues. WPA2 became the solid standard for years, especially using CCMP, which is based on strong AES encryption.
But WPA2 wasn't perfect, which led us to WPA3. What was the critical weakness in WPA2, particularly with the common pre-shared key PSK method everyone uses?
The big one was the vulnerability in the authentication handshake itself, the four-way handshake.
Okay, what about it?
An attacker didn't even need to be on the network actively guessing passwords. They could just passively listen nearby, capture the encrypted handshake messages exchanged when a legitimate user connects.
Just capture the data packets.
Yeah, and then take that captured data offline. Because of how the math worked in WPA2 PSK, they could use that captured hash to brute force the network password, the PSK, at their leisure using powerful computers. No interaction needed after the initial capture.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty major flaw. So WPA3 fixes that specific offline brute force attack.
That's its primary achievement, yes. It fundamentally changes the initial key exchange.
How does it do it? What's the tech?
It introduces something called SAE, which stands for Simultaneous Authentication of Equals.
Okay.
SAE is the key. It enables perfect forward secrecy for Wi-Fi passwords. It uses a different kind of handshake, sometimes called the Dragonfly handshake, which is based on Diffie-Hellman key exchange principle.
Diffie-Hellman. That's about agreeing on a key without actually sending it, right?
Exactly. With SAE, even though you and the access point both know the same PSK, you mathematically derive a unique shared session key for that specific connection without ever transmitting anything that directly reveals the PSK itself over the air.
So capturing the handshake traffic is useless for figuring out the main password.
Useless. And even better, every user connecting with the same PSK gets their own unique session key. If an attacker somehow compromises one person's session key, it doesn't help them decrypt anyone else's traffic or find the main PSK.
That is a massive security improvement over WPA2 PSK.
Huge! It really neutralizes that offline attack vector.
And WPA3 has something for public Wi-Fi too, right? Those open networks and cafes.
It does. Enhanced open mode. This uses something called opportunistic wireless encryption, or OWE.
What does that do?
It means that even on an open network with no password required to connect, the connection between your device and the access point is automatically encrypted.
So no more casual sniffing of your traffic on public Wi-Fi.
Exactly. It protects you from passive eavesdropping, even without authentication. It's a baseline level of privacy for open networks.
Good steps forward. Now, beyond the protocol itself, what about basic wireless hardening? Do the old tricks still matter?
Some do. AZ filtering only allowing devices with specific hardware addresses can add a small hurdle, but AZ addresses are easily spoofed, so it's not strong security.
What about changing the default SID name?
Oh, absolutely. Always change defaults. Makes it slightly harder for attackers to guess what equipment you're using. But hiding the SSID, disabling the broadcast,
Yeah, I hear mixed things about that.
it offers very little real security. Sure, it hides the network name from casual scans on phones or laptops, but any attacker with basic wireless tools freely available can instantly detect hidden networks. It's security through obscurity, easily bypassed. Don't rely on it.
Good to know. Okay, let's quickly cover common wireless attacks people should be aware of.
Top of the list, probably rogue access points. Someone just plugs an unauthorized AP into your network jack, creating a backdoor.
bypassing all your perimeter security.
Yep. Even more insidious are evil twins.
Sounds menacing.
It is. It's a rogue AP, but it's configured with the exact same SSID and security settings as your legitimate network.
Oh, so users' devices might automatically connect to the fake one.
Exactly. Then the attacker captures their login credentials or intercepts their traffic.
Yeah.
Very effective social engineering via Wi-Fi. Then you have brute force jamming attacks, just blasting noise on the Wi-Fi frequencies to cause a denial of service.
And attacks against WPS, that push-button setup thing.
Yeah, WPS attacks. The WPS pay-in system was found to be vulnerable to a brute force attack. Tools like Reaver automate this. You can discover the PN relatively quickly, which then gives you the main WPI-PA2 password. Best practice is just to disable WPS entirely.
Okay, shifting slightly from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth, more personal area network threats.
Right. These are usually shorter range, targeting individuals. You have bluejacking, which is mostly annoying, sending unsolicited messages.
Like spam over Bluetooth.
Kinda. Then it gets serious with blue snarfing. That's unauthorized access to information on the device, contacts, calendars, emails. Actual theft.
Yikes.
And the worst is blue bugging. This allows an attacker to effectively take over the phone, remotely make calls, send texts, eavesdrop on conversations, full compromise.
Scary stuff. And all these wireless signals, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth,
Yeah.
they lead to people physically searching for them, right?
Yeah. The classic war driving, just driving or walking around scanning for open or weak networks. And the modern version, war flying, using drones or even small planes to map wireless signals over a wider area from the air.
The hunt for signal. It really highlights why controlling access, especially remote access, is so critical. Which brings us to VPNs.
Virtual private networks, essential for secure remote connections.
The sources talked about two main VPN tunnel configurations, split tunnel and full tunnel. What's the difference?
It's all about what traffic goes through the encrypted tunnel. With a split tunnel, only the traffic destined for the private corporate network gets encrypted and sent through the VPN.
And your other internet traffic, Netflix, browsing.
That goes directly out your local internet connection, not through the VPN, unencrypted by the VPN, uninspected by corporate security, saves corporate bandwidth, but less secure.
Okay, so the alternative is
The full tunnel.
Yeah.
With this, all traffic from your remote device, web browsing, email, everything is forced through the encrypted VPN tunnel back to the corporate network.
why do that? Seems inefficient.
Security, visibility, and control.
Right.
Because all your traffic routes back through the corporate network, it can be inspected by the company's security stack, their firewall, IPS, web filters, maybe a UTM, Unified Threat Management device.
Ah, so the company can enforce its security policies even when you're working remotely?
Precisely. They maintain visibility and protection over all your work-related traffic, even if you're just browsing the web. Generally considered the more secure approach for corporate access.
Right, complete visibility. That ties nicely into controlling who connects in the first place. Let's talk NAC network access control.
NEC acts like a health inspector or a bouncer for your network.
How does it work?
It uses health agents' small pieces of software on the client device trying to connect. These agents check the device against predefined security policies.
Like what?
Is the antivirus up to date? Are the required OS patches installed? Is prohibited software absent? Is the firewall enabled? Things like that.
And if the device fails, the health check.
If it's deemed unhealthy, NAC restricts its access. It might get blocked entirely, or more commonly, shunted to a separate, isolated remediation network.
Where it can only access resources to fix itself, like update servers.
Exactly. Once it meets the health requirements, NAC grants it full access to the production network.
This seems especially useful for mobile devices,
Yeah.
BYOD, contractors, people connecting with potentially less managed devices.
Definitely. And for those scenarios, the type of health agent matters. You have two main types.
Okay.
There's the permanent or persistent agent. This is typically installed on corporate-owned machines and stays there, constantly monitoring.
Standard install.
Right. But for devices you don't manage directly, like personal laptops or mobile phones, you often use a dissolvable agent.
Dissolvable, meaning temporary.
Yeah. It's usually downloaded automatically when the user tries to connect maybe via a web portal. It runs the health check, reports back to the NAC system, and then it removes itself either during the session or right after the user disconnects.
So no persistent software left behind on the user's personal device.
Clever. Much better for privacy and usability in BYOD scenarios.
Okay, we're nearing the end, but we absolutely have to cover the bedrock. Authentication protocols. The AAA authentication, authorization, Accounting. Let's trace the evolution here.
Right, the foundation. We have to start with the historical problem child, PPAP, password authentication
The
protocol.
one that sends passwords in clear text.
The very same. Should absolutely never be used today. It's completely insecure.
Good riddance. What replaced it as the standard for a long time?
Radius Remote Authentication Dial-In User Service. It became the de facto standard, often used with 802.1x for port-based network access control on switches and wireless APs.
Radius is still widely used, but there are more secure options now, right? Like TACAS++.
Yes, TACAS Plus, Terminal Access Controller Access Control System Plus, is a Cisco-developed alternative. Key differences. It uses TCP port 49, whereas Radius uses UDP. And critically, TechX Plus encrypts the entire authentication packet payload, not just the password field like early Radius versions did. It also separates authentication, authorization, and accounting into distinct functions, offering more granularity.
So generally seen as more robust, especially the encryption part.
Correct. Then, looking beyond Radius itself, we see extensions like Diameter.
An upgrade to Radius.
Kind of. It was designed as a successor, addressing some Radius limitations, offering better reliability over TCP/SCTP, failover mechanisms, and native support for EAP, the Extensible Authentication Protocol.
EAP seems important. It's a framework, right? Not one specific protocol.
Yeah. Exactly. EAP provides a flexible framework for various authentication methods. And if you want the absolute strongest EAP method commonly available for network access,
Let me guess. EAP-TLS.
you got it. EAP-TLS, Transport Layer Security.
Why is that considered the gold standard?
Because it provides mutual authentication. This is key. It uses digital certificates on both sides. The server presents a certificate to the client to prove its identity, and the client presents a certificate to the server to prove its identity.
A two-way certificate check.
Right. This eliminates the risk of connecting to a fake server, like an evil twin AP, and ensures only authorized, properly configured clients can connect to the network. It's the most secure, requiring a proper public key infrastructure, PKI, to manage the certificates, but offers the highest assurance.
Wow. Okay, that was a seriously dense sweep through network security. Let's try to summarize the strategic takeaways for everyone.
Go for it.
We covered the detective versus police officer roles of IDS and IPS, the crucial in-band versus out-of-band placement, and the trade-offs involved. We looked at HIDs for hosts, NIDs for networks, and how they detect things using signatures or by spotting anomalies against a baseline.
Right, and the dangers of false positives and false negatives that come with detection.
We touched on why counterattacks are a bad idea, and the smarter approach of using decoys like honeypots and honey tokens for intelligence. Then, tackling encryption with SSL-TLS decryptors and identifying infected clients with DNS sinkholes.
Then we jump to wireless. Fat versus thin APs, the huge leap from WPA2's offline attack vulnerability to WPA3's SAE and perfect forward secrecy. Plus, enhanced open for public Wi-Fi.
Covered basic hardening, like changing SSAIDs, the limited value of hiding them, and common threats like rogue APs, evil twins, and Bluetooth attacks.
Don't forget war driving and war flying, and VPN's split tunnel versus the more secure full tunnel for complete traffic inspection.
And finally, tying it all together with any key health checks using persistent or dissolvable agents, and the authentication hierarchy from insecure PAP through Radius and TACSS Plus front up to the gold standard of EAP-TLS for mutual certificate-based authentication.
That pretty much covers the core concepts we unpacked. It's a complex landscape, but hopefully you have a much clearer picture of the key defenses and strategies now.
Definitely.
So let me leave you with a final thought, something to chew on that connects back to our discussion on detection. We talked about trend-based IDS relying on baselines of normal behavior and using honey tokens based on knowing what data shouldn't move. These advanced systems fundamentally rely on knowing what normal or expected looks like.
Right.
But attackers are constantly developing zero-day exploits, changing tactics, trying to blend in. So the question is, how quickly does that baseline of normal actually shift in a dynamic enterprise environment? And if normal is a constantly moving target, what does that imply for the future effectiveness and the necessary evolution of fully automated security responses that depend on that baseline? How smart do the machines need to get?
That's a critical question. How do you automate defense against an enemy whose definition changes daily? Definitely something for everyone designing or defending networks to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into securing the modern network.